It is not because people like Circle or they like Tether. They want dollars. Big fundamental differences between Europe and the US and LatAm. This is why people in LatAm love Bitcoin.
What makes us basically so different from Europe or US? And do you think people's lives are generally improving thanks to crypto in the Latin American market?
100 days being an entrepreneur, 98 days will be tough or will be shitty or will be bad. 100%. 100%. Hit me up when you're coming and I'll make sure to give you the tour, show you some good places to eat tacos, arepas, and enjoy and see how to build and how to solve problems with this beautiful technology that we have in front of us.
Good day and welcome. It's Wesley, Head of Partnerships at SwapSpace, and welcome to the SwapSpace Huddle, where we're talking to people who are actually building in Web3 and crypto. And we're excited to have you on our podcast, and thank you for taking time. Ernesto, this is our first interview with the entrepreneur whose business and expertise are focused on Latin America, so you're especially interested in our perspective. So could you tell me more about yourself, who you are, what you do today, and how you entered the crypto industry in general?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Wesley. Thank you for the SwapSpace team for the chance to chat. It's always great to chat with other people that are building and that are very passionate about what this industry can do. So my name's Ernesto. I'm Venezuelan. I've been living in Mexico for almost 14 years now, and I'm an industrial engineer. I was initially working in consumer products, and then I lived in China for a bit, and it was amazing to see how the technology, the chats, and the payment systems were there. And then I moved to Mexico for work. That thing I saw in China stayed with me. And then in Mexico, one day somebody called me to offer to do marketing for this tiny startup that was doing work with some weird internet money. And that weird internet money, this is how the headhunter described it to me, ended up being Bitcoin. So I joined Bitso. Is today the largest exchange in LatAm in 2017. And then in 2018, I joined Dash, which is a layer 2 cryptocurrency. And I started doing business development with them. And we did over 200 projects all over the world with a deep focus in LatAm, allowing people to pay with Dash. We integrated Burger King, we integrated supermarkets, we launched the first debit card in LatAm in 2019, and I've been just very, very, very passionate about this space for the past years. One moment that clicked very much is that when I lived in China, sending money there took about a week and a half. And when I discovered that with Bitcoin you could do it in minutes, I was blown away. So I've been building since there, launched a startup, and have been consulting and working with multiple companies since. I love this space.
Awesome, Ernesto. And currently the Latin American market is looks like one of the most dynamic and promising regions in terms of the crypto adoption. What makes us basically so different from Europe or US? And do you think people's lives are generally improving thanks to crypto in the Latin American market?
Well, I'll start with number two. Do I think people's lives are improving thanks to this industry? 100%. 100%. There are big fundamental differences between Europe and the US and LatAm. The most important one is that this is a fragmented region. If you want to send, for example, money from Colombia to Brazil, and they are very close to each other, or from Colombia to Ecuador that are literally next to each other, you have to go through two different banking systems. So a normal transaction can take a few days, maybe a couple weeks. And then if you're sending, for example, from any LatAm country to Central America, sometimes it can take more than a week. And you can pay 50, 60, many dollars plus the exchange rate. So this is one very important difference. In Europe, if we're sending money from Germany to France or from Germany to Poland, it's the same system. You work in euros, there's no problems. But in Venezuela, in Latin America, it is fragmented. Besides this, Latin America in the past 50, 60 years has suffered from inflation. So people in Venezuela or Argentina, they know that if you keep your bolivars or your pesos, the value will disappear, in a couple weeks. And the people in Mexico, Brazil, and other places that today are more stable, they have suffered inflation in the past 20 years. So the parents know, it's better to have dollars or it's better to have this other currency. So it is in the mind of people that the value of the money disappears. So when you add these two things together, the separation of the banking system plus the understanding of the debasement of money, this is why people in LatAm love Bitcoin. They love stable coins. They love crypto because they understand the basis. So it's not a new concept that you're trying to sell them. It is a solution that you're bringing.
So can we say that USDT has basically and effectively become a digital dollar in the region? Is the picture right? Or
100%. In the places and the use cases where USDT, USDC are more popular, it is not because people like Circle or they like Tether. They want dollars. So the wallets that are growing a lot, or the use cases like remittances with Felix Pago or with Meru as a wallet, they just tell the users, here is digital dollars. And then on the back end, you use whatever system you can to provide the digital dollars. And this is why there has been so much adoption by end users. And then institutions, let's say, for example, Mexico is a very big manufacturing hub. But when you manufacture something, you don't make everything yourself. So if you're making, for example, parts for the auto industry, you have some suppliers in China, maybe some leather suppliers in Central America, and some other suppliers in Brazil. So if you're a medium-sized company buying or selling to these people, then you're forced to, here's, I'm sending you the wire today, wait a week and a half to arrive, or my Chinese supplier needs to wait 2 weeks like I was waiting. So when you put stable coin solutions in the middle, and now the transaction takes, a few minutes, maybe an hour instead of a week, then these people are very happy. And this is why you are seeing a lot of adoption by Bitso Business, by Alfred Pay, by many of these companies that are providing stablecoin solutions.
Got it. And since we touched base on the data use cases, so I would love also to learn more about the Unalivio. So how many users currently the platform have, and how's it growing right now? Maybe like the average transaction size, large transfers, or more frequent smaller transactions occurring in there. Tell me more. How
very interesting. So we launched Unalivio with the purpose of allowing people to pay for medical bills from abroad. And we built a system and it started working. Then we found that the market for this niche was too small. So what we did is we pivoted and we are becoming Unalivio from a solution payment system to pay for medical bills for a system that is enabling content creators to make money. So it's a big shift in the north of where we're going, but in the back end, the rails are the same. We allow people to move money and we are using the same principles that I told you. People want dollars, people don't want to wait. So since we've made this change, we've grown a lot. We are growing about 20% monthly average users. The average revenue that we get for the ones, and we have, almost 200 and something users. And not every one of them is using the platform. About 40% have used it at all. And the ones that are getting more donations or support from their fan base are getting, up from $200 and something a month. And then, of course, some are getting nothing. So we're learning that. But in short, we are deploying a tool that is allowing Latin Americans to receive money from anywhere around the world.
And also, the market right now is volatile. So, since we touched the user base and kind of their behavior, so basically which features your users like use the most inside of the service or most often?
Yeah, this is really interesting. And like I told you, the vision we always had is how do we allow people that live in markets that are not well connected, like Europe, to monetize their products and services in an easy way. So the use case is, we have quite a few freelancers that are designers or that are working with AI, and they do work for their customers. And their customers might be in Europe or might be in the US. Before, they would have to ask for the favor to a friend to receive the money and pass it to them, and it would take whatever, or to get, PayPal, and PayPal charges about 5% every time you move the money. So now they just have their account and they send the amount that they want to get paid, and they get paid immediately. So this is a use case born out of necessity and not out of speculation. So it doesn't matter if the price of Bitcoin is at 120,000 or it's at 60 or if it falls to 30,000. Those people are using the platform because they're working, they're making money with it, they're using it. So the beauty of the demand that we are seeing in Latin America and in the places where there is no speculation is that it's sustainable. It doesn't depend on price.
Got it. So you basically do not see any difference in the behaviors of the users and people in general during the bull and bear markets. So that's what you're trying to say, right?
100%. It's and this is why I told you that we changed the vision of Unalivio into Tipper, which is the tool for content creators, because we are getting or not getting growth depending on how we tackle the market and how we solve a problem. So this is the beauty of building something that is for building for building solutions, for solving problems, instead of looking for speculative assets where, a few years ago, people were buying NFTs like crazy because they thought the price would go to $100,000, $200,000. And now, because the price is low, so many people are buying NFTs. But still, NFTs are like a club card that you can use to enter some Telegram groups or some. So there is utility, but because people were going for the speculative price, the demand shrunk, the demand went down. The opposite has been happening in LatAm, where people are going like crazy to USDT, USDC because they want digital dollars. And also, a lot of people are going to Bitcoin, for example, because they want this type of hard asset that is not easily stopped by governments or by agencies. So when you see demand peel through the top shiny price thing and go to the core of solving a problem, then the demand stays more or less stable and depends more on the product, on the solution, on the team, than just, I'm gonna buy, this coin because it went up 10x and I expect it to go up 1,000x, which almost no time happens.
Right. So, and also in several countries across the region, the crypto payment is becoming kind of part of everyday life. And do you personally see a shift from this simply holding crypto or using it for international transfers towards building a full crypto economy, talking about the salaries, services, B2B settlements, and whatever more in there? So do you see this shift happening in the LatAm region also?
100%. Like I told you, in most of LatAm, the rails or the connections for companies are starting to be changed for stablecoin solutions. Not everywhere, but in many places you see that these small companies, like I told you, the supplier that is working internationally, they now know that, well, I can use the bank and it's gonna cost me $50 per transaction, and it's gonna get 2 days delay if I'm going through a big corridor. Like if you send money US Mexico, it takes 2-3 days, but if you send money to China, it takes 4 or 5 days. If you send money to El Salvador or Costa Rica, it can take a week. So the people whose job is to make these payments, many of them are already aware, oh, there's this thing called stablecoins or these companies, and these companies are growing a lot. Bitso for Business in Mexico did $100 million in transactions last year. And they are serving companies that want to move money in an easy way. They are serving companies that are doing remittances, so it is happening already. In terms of end customers, it depends. In some places, like for example Venezuela, and I see it here on the list of questions, Binance is present for many people. They don't say the numbers, but I estimate that more than 100,000 people probably have Binance there, because you go to a cafe and you see the barista saying that he has Binance, and you can pay in Binance. You go to a random shoe shop and they will accept Binance. So this has gone down to the people very heavily in places that don't have access, and in the places that have economical problems. And because all of Latin America doesn't have good banking access, I see more of the connections happening or being built.
Let's talk also about the strategy and the future. So how does Unalivio plan to scale with an increasing competition and tightening regulation inside of the region? What's your kind of plan to address this?
Yeah, well, the path forward for the startup is to not talk so much or not talk almost anything about crypto, stablecoins, Bitcoin, whatever, and talk about the solution. So here, you have digital dollars, you can get your money from anywhere around the world. That's what people care about. In the space, we've made the mistake of becoming too technical and too complicated, and you tell the people, here, download this wallet, you have to store the 12 words, you have to keep a backup, but don't keep it in the same place, you can get hacked. So if we want to get the next 100 million users, the next billion users, we have to make it easy. And this is what the successful companies have done, and this should be the path of moving forward. And in terms of regulation, well, we don't always like it, but the reality is that if you don't comply with regulation, sooner or later you can get in trouble. So we have to work with regulated entities or figure out ways that we are within the realm of the law, so that then a regulator doesn't come. Or you become completely decentralized, and then it's more difficult, like Bitcoin, or almost impossible to stop. So you have one of these two paths to move forward.
And what do you think the main challenge right now for you personally and as a startup founder? So is it liquidity, regulation, maybe just user trust, or something absolutely different?
Yeah, as a small startup founder, the main challenge is to find product market fit. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you have a lot of money or if you have less. I mean, if you have more money, then you can survive a bit longer. But at the end of the day, either you have a product that has demand or you don't have a product with demand. And this is the main focus of myself and obviously of every other startup founder that I've met.
Right. And basically, what's the current growth priorities for you? Is it expanding the user base, or maybe launching additional products, or as you mentioned earlier, still want to find this product market fit, or just entering the new markets maybe in the future? What do you think?
No. We started working within Venezuela because it's a market that is heavily underserved. And well, we have to hurry up now because a lot of people are looking into Venezuela. But the key thing we need to solve is making sure that we have a product that is sticky, that people use and reuse, that people come, and then we will look into growth, because as I said, all of Latin America has these disconnection problems, and in some places there are more solutions than others. For example, I live in Mexico, and in Mexico there are a lot of different competitors and solutions, and this is why we didn't start here, because it would be more difficult, because you have to compete with Stripe, and you have to compete with Patreon, and you have to compete with GoFundMe or whatever solution, plus the exchanges. Coinbase is here. So our idea was to start in a place that is not so much competed, find a problem there, solve it really well, and then figure out how to expand. So in short, expanding the user base within our initial market, which is product market fit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And from your perspective, imagine if, for example, SwapSpace wanted to, or considering entering the Latin American market. So what should be the first or a couple of the most important moments that they need to understand about this market? Is it something cultural, maybe economical, maybe something strategically what we should look for?
Well, no, this is, I love this question, and I love how you guys are smart and using these spaces to get insight. So congratulations on that. So this is number one thing. Number two is what I always tell companies from other places that are coming here is Latin America is not one piece of something. It's very different markets that are together. I have some similarities. But for example, Brazil, you could take out and imagine that it's like Australia, because it's a totally different monster than the rest of things. The other things have more things in common. We all speak Spanish, we have a similar culture, so you have to look at it through the lens of history. Okay, all of these places were led by the Spanish for many years ago, and then they changed, and they have a similar social and economic development where there's a lot of people that are not well off. There's a small minority that is very well off, and there is some type of middle class. So this thing is common in all of LatAm. But then every other country will have many differences. For example, Mexico has a very different situation today than Argentina or than Colombia, and then of course the crazy Venezuela. So you have to understand that every market will be different. I'll give you something and you can write this down for the company. For example, in Mexico, the people that are interested in crypto are more interested in the speculative asset part, and you have some people that are very wealthy and that they want to have asset, and there are some decently sized family offices. So if you want to target high net worth people, well, maybe Mexico is a very good place. Then, for example, Colombia is close to Venezuela. It's a lower income market compared to Mexico. It's much smaller, and they have different problems than Mexico. Mexico also sells a lot to the US and is a big manufacturing hub. So that's why there's a lot of stablecoin usage there. So Colombia will be different. Peru will also be different. So what I'm saying is, if you guys want to start doing something here, understand that there are different markets and come here. You can come here for a couple of conferences, make a meet up with some users and start understanding who are these people using this, why are they using it, and that way will give you a more clear idea of, I want to start in Mexico because it's the biggest market, but it's more competed. Or I want to start in Peru, that is much smaller, but there is no Bitso and Coinbase there.
Exactly.
So break it down, try to understand a bit, talk more to people that are locally, and then try to see how you can get an initial group of users there, and then try to grow more.
Totally get it, just to get the taste. And finally, I would love to make it in form of the blitz. Answer can be short as one word and can be long, up to you. So how do you see crypto market in Latin America evolving over 3-5 years? In a couple of words, what's going to be look like?
Well, like I will answer in 2-3 parts. Number one, the market will grow a lot more. Interconnected will be a key word, so stablecoins will play an interconnection part. Number two, people will want more privacy for sure. So this is a problem that we have now with stablecoins. If I pay with my wallet and into a place and you're there, you can see that I paid, and you can see if I have $50 or $20,000. So that is dangerous. So privacy will be more important. And number five, this will be just like AI, a tool that will leverage and will allow people to rise. Imagine 10 years ago, if I was the best graphic designer in the region, it will be very difficult for me to get a job with a client in Europe. I mean, I could, but it would be very difficult to get paid. I would lose a lot of money. Now that barrier is eliminated. So this will create and grow even more income for some people in the region that learn to use it. So it's a tool for freedom. So in 5 years, more interconnection, more freedom, and also more people careful about privacy.
Totally get it. Awesome, Ernesto. And one last thing I wanted to ask, just for one piece of advice from all of your entrepreneurial journey in Web3 and especially in the LatAm region. What one piece of advice you can give to the young entrepreneurs who just starting their journey? It can be anything.
If you're just starting, make sure that you look at a problem that you want to solve. Make sure that you are very passionate about this opportunity and about this problem, because the reality is that, from 100 days being an entrepreneur, 98 days will be tough or will be shitty or will be bad. So you have to really like what you're doing so you can, not quit after the first 98 difficult days, and when the 2 very good days come, you're like, oh yeah, you made it. So everybody thinks that being an entrepreneur is this romantic movie of trying, and then you're a big star. The reality is that there will be more difficult days than easy days, and this is why it is important that you do something that you're really happy about and that you really want to solve, because this is the real driver that will get you through the tough days, and then the good days will come and you'll be even more happy. But it's not the romantic thing that you read in a magazine and says, oh, Wesley made a pitch and he got to $20 million and now he's building the next unicorn. That is not the reality. The reality is that there is a lot of tough days, there is a lot of work, and this is why you gotta do it, especially if you love it.
Appreciate the advice, Ernesto, and definitely the good days will come. It's been Ernesto, founder of Unalivio. Thank you for taking this call today and having a chance to share this alpha insights. Appreciate you and have a great day. See ya.
Amazing. Hope to see you soon here in LatAm. There's a lot of things happening in Mexico and the rest of places, so hit me up when you're coming and I'll make sure to give you the tour, show you some good places to eat tacos, arepas, and enjoy and see how to build and how to solve problems with this beautiful technology that we have in front of us.